Everyone's been dropping their tier list for Street Fighter 6, but we're going to drop our own tier list a little bit differently. We have 4 tier lists from top players: Justin Wong, Nephew, Big Bird, and Haitani. And I want to first compare their tier lists, give my thoughts on the differences, and make my own tier list as we go. This is from Haitani. Haitani was the first person ever to get master rank on every single character. So if it's anyone's opinion from Japan I trust, it's him having first-hand experience of every character. We have Big Bird, of course, the winner of Red Bull Kumite. We have Justin Wong, fighting game extraordinaire, and we have Young Neff, aka second place at CEO. And they all have different thoughts on their tier list, right? I think the one thing that you'll see immediately is the fact that Haitani's tier list has like 7 different tiers compared to everyone else that only had 4. To me, that signifies that a game's inherently imbalanced. When you have a more compressed tier list, it signifies that characters are more viable. I personally agree with everyone else. I think this game is quite balanced. And I think even characters at the lower end, like Zangief, can still win if you have the right matchups. I think no one in this game is truly unviable, and we've seen characters like Zangief, Lily, Kimberly, Manon do really well in tournaments. All right, now let's first point out the differences between these guys' tier lists. So the first one that you'll see if you're a tier list enthusiast is Dee Jay. Having Dee Jay at B tier is way lower than everyone else has Dee Jay in their top 5. And as a newly minted Master Dee Jay, let's discuss. So the main reasons Nephew gave was the fact that EX Fireball into Drive Rush is really expensive, right? Which it is. It's 3 bars and doesn't even lead to a guaranteed follow-up. So for example, this can be interrupted. See how there's a big gap there? It kind of feels like a worse version of Juri doing like a fireball in the Drive Rush, which is very, very true. However, I think one of the main strengths that people don't talk about with Dee Jay is the neutral. I think the Dee Jay neutral is extremely strong. I think this button in general is one of the most underrated buttons in the game. It's just it's an uncancelable medium kick, but it goes very, very far, and it's extremely safe against Drive Rush, right? And it's only -1 on block. You can get a combo on counter hit. How do I say it? Like if you happen to be close, punish counter just combos into itself. If you happen to be far, I think this normal is absolutely insane. The reach on this is crazy. So if you just use this to whiff punish something, it has to be like quite possibly the best whiff punisher in the game. You whiff punish and then they explode after this. I think this move is insanely good. Yeah, it's weak to DI, but again, you have this to kind of stuff out any DIs, and the risk reward isn't that good for Oh, what the fuck? Did I break my controller? Oh no. Bro, I fucking damaged my controller. How the fuck that happened? Oh, there I got it. Never mind. Yeah, I was gonna say, I felt like it should snap back in place. What I think makes a strong character in this game, having reversal, having a drive rush, having good pokes, having good damage. Dee Jay has it all, right? You have probably the best drive rush in the game, probably the fastest drive rush in terms of initial speed. Very, very hard to stop. You get a combo. He does some of the most damage in the game. He has a service or reversal. Not the best because it is charged, but it's still really good. And your neutral is just crazy. Another thing I think is really strong about Dee Jay is this fake boom. There's a couple characters with fakes like JP, but I think no character has as good of a fake as Dee Jay. So if they're like trying to parry on reaction to your boom, right, you could just and then you get a free punish counter, you get a free throw. It makes his zoning a lot harder to deal with. Even though his fireballs aren't the best, they can be a little laggy. This fake boom, I think, is just so cheap. So I think his neutral is just really, really good. I mean, some of his moves, like this is kind of a gimmick because it has a big gap. This is kind of a gimmick. But I think just in general, like his neutral is just so good that if you just play really solid fundamentally, I think this character is really strong. Also, this move is surprisingly really good too. Just dealing between that and like this lower jump, and it can be hard for some characters to deal with because this hits a lot quicker than your typical jump-in, and it hits at a shorter range. So I personally am going to put Dee Jay in my top 5 or 6. I personally think there's only 4 tiers as well. So we'll call this S, A+A, and B tier. And I'll put Dee Jay, I think he's I'll put him in S tier for now. I think he's quite good, but I think he's probably on the lower end of S tier. The main cons I have is he doesn't have like the best drive rush cancelable button, right? So like your furthest drive rush cancelable button is this. And I think it's just like a little susceptible to DI and jump. You have a really good anti-air when you have charge, but if you don't have charge, you have to kind of anti-air with this move, this back heavy kick. And if you're a little bit slow with it, you're gonna either trade or lose, and your reward's like not that high. It's a little hard to discourage people from jumping, so yeah, you can bait out responses, but if they get just like one lucky read on your boom, then you can be in pain. The other thing is just really meter hungry, right? Like this is obviously really strong, and then you can do combos, and like these are so sick. But that was like my whole drive meter. Like if you have charge, I think you can get this, right? Right, so you actually do get a lot of damage, but it's like with you just look for the charge, right? Just don't jump on him when he has charge. Oh yeah, that's true. This is like a decent, but like this is hard to anti-air with. That is a pretty good anti-air too, but like why are you jumping at this range, right? Another thing I think is really cheap about him, being able to like mix up between drive rush throw and drive rush step back into low, which by the way gives you like a full combo. This is like a great like an option a lot of characters have, and you get rewarded so high. All right, the second thing that Nephew has that is different from everyone else is Blanka being in top 5. I kind of agree with this. The main reasons I think Blanka is strong are the same reasons Nephew thinks Blanka is strong. And it's probably because he has some of the best defense in the game. I kind of talked about this in a previous video. Yeah, this move is so good, right? It beats either shimmy and throw, or if you do like a fuzzy timing, so you do like a delayed EX ball, it'll beat block and shimmy, and it's +3 on block at least. Like, bro, what were they thinking with this game? You do a defensive option that beats 2 out of the 3 offensive options you have, and it's your turn after. Like, what? And you can still do the regular ball, and if you space it right, it's really hard to punish. So that was safe. So yeah, I think this character's defense, of course they have the EXDP as well. Obviously you have Blanka ball, you have some other tools. Like dealing with this like base level game plan, like let's say you think it's a heavy ball and it's not actually, and then you get thrown. I think that's really cheap. Of course you have the Blanka-chan subs too. They're not quite as strong as the Kimberly subs, but they're still multi-layered mix that they can parry, but then you can get a punish counter on the parry, and there's no good way out of it, and it just enforces his offense that much stronger. I also feel like Blanka is one of the most unpopular characters, and this character hasn't been explored much, and characters like that have room to grow, and they already have like a really strong base toolkit, I think have potential to be S tier. So this is going to be kind of a hot take, and maybe not quite as strong as DJ because I think Blanka does lack a little bit of neutral. Some of the stuff that Blanka does in neutral feels a little gimmicky. I'm actually going to put Blanka in S tier, but maybe not, maybe outside my top 5. All right, so Big Bird's tier list and Justin Wong's tier list are almost exactly the same, right? It's like literally they just copied each other's homework, but there's one key difference. Cammy is top 5 in everyone's tier list. Actually, Haitani has Cammy as top 1. Big Bird has Cammy as 9th, right? And the main reason behind this, as a Cammy player, that's a lie. Yeah, that sounds about right. Just the weakness to DI for some of these pokes. The stand medium kick, basically just a worse version of DJ's button, right? But at the same time, like, I don't feel like this is super susceptible to DI. Right, you can still DI back. Of course, there's this button, which is basically just a worse version of DJ stand heavy kick because you only get like a knockdown and punish counter. But it's still such a good button. And all of other Cammy's tools, like Cammy's just trying to get you to whiff, trying to check a drive rush. She probably has like one of the best drive rush check moves in the game with this 2 medium punch. I think Cammy's neutral is very good with dive kicks. You can bait out tons of anti-airs. Yeah, every jump she does is a mix-up. That's a very good way to put it. EX dive kick, of course, insanely strong. Move people don't talk about enough. I think the spin knuckle is very good. It's a good anti-fireball move. +3 on block. Yes, you can perfect parry it, but you also have different versions you can mix up with, and if you try to DI and Cammy does the lighter medium, you just get completely smoked. Hooligan's like okay, I think it's kind of gimmicky, but your toolkit is so strong that I don't think it really matters. You also have a very good crouch medium kick into drive rush. That's a very strong tool in this game. I think in general, like, she just plays very fundamentally solid. The other complaint that Big Bird had was just the lack of damage, which I think is a very valid complaint. But I think just because like she handles so many characters well with her dive kick and spin knuckle and her just neutral pokes, I think she has to go in S tier. And even Big Bird admits that this character has potential to go in the S. So again, it's still new, it's still month 2, but I think just the amount of neutral presence that Cammy has kind of puts her over the top. So I actually think she's better than DJ and Blanka. I think the reason she's better than DJ is just She has more ways to play neutral, so to speak, right? Dee Jay is just kind of one-dimensional where you throw fireball and you use really good pokes. But I feel like Cammy, depending on the matchup, you have a bunch of different ways to play. So for example, against Guile, I think Dee Jay does not do well against Guile at all. Dee Jay has to approach. Dee Jay like doesn't really want to approach, right? He wants to force you to approach and use the fake booms to affect and get you to overcommit. Where Cammy, you have all the tools in the world to approach. So I feel like your matchup spread's a lot more even. All right, so let's talk about some changes in this Haitani tier list. Guile is super low. We have Guile, Marisa, and Dhalsim are super low compared to America, right? I think there's a few reasons. I think, one, we have a few very strong Guiles, right? We have Knuckle-Doo, we have Kaba, we have some other players. But the main reason that Japan kind of put them low is because the power of parry, perfect parry, right? If you could perfect parry these booms and stop him from enforcing his offense, he becomes way less scary. But the thing is, like, Guile can vary his boom speed, right? It's very, very hard to perfect parry these booms because you're just reacting to the boom animation. You're not reacting to the speed because you don't have quite the reaction time and able to do that. And you might think like, oh yeah, let me just regular parry the booms. But this is trolling. Like, if you're just doing this mid-screen, you're losing drive, but the other Guile is getting back meter. So this is a losing battle, which means you have to take a risk. It means you have to preemptive jump. You have to go for a random drive rush. You have to take some type of risk to get in with Guile. So Guile could just like throw a boom, drive rush, bazooka, and I missed it there, but you get the idea. Has crazy good range. And I was +4 there, but like even if you do it like up closer, still plus, right? So you can get like a mix up from neutral for pretty much free, right? And even the anti-airs are really strong. Like having a far anti-air like this, very, very, very good. You also have a very good crouch heavy punch too. Being able to rush down as well just doesn't make sense to me. I think this character is insanely cheap. One of the strongest characters in the game, if not the strongest. Yeah, the boom recovery is just insanely fast. Like a lot of characters, you can just punish their fireball. Like if you get a well-timed jump. But Guile can easily block. And he probably could have anti-aired me there too. So I actually have Guile above Cammy in S tier. All right, so Marisa being bottom 5, I think this is kind of a cap. We know Marisa is very good. And to be fair to Haitani, this list was made before Red Bull Kumite. And I don't know if there's really that much to say about Marisa. I think her neutral's pretty good, right? I think it's even just like Gladius in neutral, the range on this move is really good. You can hold it. You have a lot of different moves that you are hard to react to. I think even just this move is like pretty hard to deal with. This move is crazy. The fact that this is safe and then you can just like, you can mix up with armor after, you know, she can obviously play the drive rush game, but the main thing where she shines is just her damage. Her damage is insanely good. So her risk reward for doing anything in neutral or just playing the game in general is really strong. I also think she has a very, very strong command grab too. Right, you do like 2500. She has like safe jump setup. She has all this crazy offense. I think the main weakness she has is her reversal isn't the best, right? She has EX armor that's okay, but it loses the throw. It kind of loses the shimmy. Her level 1 super, it's basically not usable as a reversal because, right, it loses to everything. So you have to like commit to a level 2. But other than that, I think Marisa is really good. Also, people complain about her anti-air. I think it's like, as long as your reactions are on point, like, doesn't seem that bad. It can whiff, but you get really good mix up after it too, and you can always do that with the air to air target combo. I think it's just MP. Yeah, so that's pretty good. She's just weak to throws in general. Some characters can like backdash a throw and be able to punish, but she has a backdash that's a couple frames worse than other characters, so you're pretty much never backdashing a throw and punishing. But yeah, her offense is insanely good, and her damage, her risk reward on pretty much everything she does is really good. So I have to agree with everyone else here and put Marisa in probably A+ tier. I think she's probably in the higher end of A+ tier. And the last one we have that's low is Dhalsim. Now Dhalsim, I'm really not sure about, right? I've heard a lot of complaints about Dhalsim, and the main complaint is that Dhalsim doesn't really play around the drive system very well, right? You don't have like the best drive rush in neutral. I mean, he literally goes like nowhere. A lot of his moves can be weak to DI, so you have to be really careful with how you throw things out. But I think he has a lot of strengths that kind of separate him from the rest of the cast. And I think the first thing is, a lot of people think of Dhalsim as a very defensive character, and you do have some good moves moves. One of the benefit is this, like these normals take a chunk away from your drive meter, so you can kind of chip away from them. But I think the main benefit is Dhalsim can go in. Take a look at any offensive sequence from players like F-Champ or Mr. Crimson. You can tell they're constantly innovating the character. There's still a lot left to explore about the character. And I think that his offensive potential can overcome some of these weaknesses, right? This move in general, I think dive kick is like insane. Like the fact that you can do like block strings like this and then dive kick back in and you're +5. Yeah, I think float in general is just really good. How do I even do float? Yeah, float MP, float HP. You can just like kind of play keep away. They have to play, like, they have to commit to go into Dhalsim. And if it's ever your advantage, you get to run a train on them. And that feels really good too. But of course, just like other Dhalsim in the past, his defense is quite weak. You don't have the best reversals. Teleport's basically useless in this game as a reversal, unless like, you know, you're playing defense like this. Throw a fireball and then you escape like that. Playing good defense with this character and using that to transition to offense is where this character shines, and I don't think any character can quite do that like Dhalsim, and I think that helps overcome his disadvantage. So I have to agree with the rest of the creators. I'm gonna put Dhalsim probably at like the very end of A+ tier. And we have one last difference to talk about. Big Bird, Manon, bottom 4. Justin Wong, Manon, bottom 3. Haitani, Manon, top 6. And even Nephew, Manon, top 10. So no one can decide about this character, right? And I listened to Nephew's explanation, Justin Wong's explanation, and I kind of agree with Justin. Nephew's argument was that the medal system for Manon is insane. I mean, just the fact that, right, a command grab done at like level 5 medals is like almost like 3k, right? You do way too much damage off of a command grab, and I kind of agree, right? And you can just kind of steamroll. The fact that the medals carry over between rounds, I think is insanely good. And just the amount of time she makes you guess. So like take for example like a string like this, right? You have to guess between overhead. She can do like a delay into low. She can do this into command grab. You're pretty much just guessing, and then even if you block the overhead, then you have to guess again, right? So you have to guess between command grab or whatever again. That seems really unfair, especially if you don't have the EX reversal like some of the characters at the lower end of the cast. But of course, characters at the higher end of the cast all have EX reversals to negate some of that mix-up. And the reason that Justin Wong brought up that this character might be bad is that, of course, the neutral's not the best. You have some decent pokes like this, but this is pretty whiff punishable, and you don't have the best like anti-fireball tools. You kind of just have to like slowly inch your way in. Your main buttons all minus on block, right? So this is minus, minus, minus. So after you block one thing from Manon, you can just poke. Let's say you drive rush and you go for a mix-up, you can just drive reversal her, right? This is probably one of the best matchups to use drive reversal in, because if you ever see the screen flash, just push her away, and now she spent 3 bars, you only spent 2 bars. Now she has to play her not so great neutral again. And so imagine you're like a Guile or someone that really dominates the neutral against Manon. She tries to go in and you just shut her down, and now she's at a drive meter advantage. Yeah, I kind of agree, like she could definitely struggle in certain matchups. So I'm actually gonna take a middle route. I'm gonna put her probably in the higher end of A tier, just because I think her explosiveness and offense, especially against characters without a reversal, is extremely strong. But yeah, she could definitely suffer in neutral against some characters, which is why I put her down here. She also doesn't have the easiest way to check drive rush, and her drive rush also goes like nowhere, so she can't even play that game quite well. All right, so let's talk about the similarities between everyone. So obviously, like everyone has Zangief low. Most of the low tiers are generally pretty consistent, so I'll go through most of them, but we'll go through them pretty quick because I don't think there's much difference in consensus. So Zangief, I think it's pretty obvious. Everyone has him in B tier. I think I'll put him in my own B tier as well. I think the reason people have him low is his neutral is just not good, right? He struggles in neutral a lot. He has some decent pokes like the 5 heavy punch. He can't like just drive rush in. He has to play very slow, very methodical. He just like leaves himself open to getting drive rushed in neutral. And even if he hits like a SPD or something, you don't even get great Oki after. You can drive rush in, but your mix-up's not that great. So he doesn't really just have that much going for him. If I had to say anything that he did have going for him, is the fact that if he gets you to block, he's super scary, right? He has a plus on block headbutt. His jabs are plus on block. He can really make you pay just for blocking, which puts you in like a really messed up, more than a 50-50 situation, because even if you block the first round of strike, there's another round of strike grab coming your way. All right, Lily's another low tier character. I kind of agree. Lily relies on win stocks a lot. I think against zoning characters, it can be a little hard to get that initial win stock, but once she gets it, she can use the win stocks to kind of, especially EX Counter Spire. I think it's a really good move to get in against zoning characters. But the thing is, Counter Spire does have a weakness, even the win stock. So the win stock regular version, you can just DI it on reaction, and even the EX version, you can just drive reversal her away. She's at a disadvantage because once she gets knocked down, she spends the same amount of drive bar as you, and she loses the win stock. So that win stock you worked hard to get, you just lose for basically free. Also, not having a reversal. I think a lot of these low tier characters, you'll see a general theme, they don't have a reversal. Being able to reversal in this game is so important, right? It can blow up a lot of fake drive rushes, for example, whether it's a neutral or canceled from a block string, or doing it on Oki like after a throw. Most of those are fake. And so against characters that have to hold that, it, you know, opens up a world of possibilities. It also makes like command grab characters mix way scarier because you don't have to worry about that reversal option. You'd think that DP she has is invincible. It's not really. Also, the command grab puts you back full screen, so it's like you can't really steamroll with Lily too well either. Everyone has Jamie pretty low too. I kind of agree. I think Jamie has some pretty good tools like drive rush, 5 heavy punch, pretty obnoxious to deal with. His pokes are pretty good, buffered in the Rekka. He has some pretty good neutral presence, but his damage is really low without drinks. And I think against certain characters, especially Guile, I don't understand how Jamie's supposed to win, because you can't really drink against Guile because the fireball is always out. If you somehow guess right and jump over a boom, you either have to do it all again because you want to take a drink, or you have to go back in. I think Jamie, while he does well in a lot of matchups because he does have invincible reversal and he does have some of the strong tools other characters have, I think against fireball characters especially, he doesn't have the best tools against them. And the fact that you have to keep going back to neutral is kind of a lost cause. So I have Jamie in low tier as well. Ryu, so the thing about Ryu, everyone has Ryu low tier. It's just Ken's a better version of Ryu. Let's be real, right? Ken has more corner carry. Ken has better neutral tools. I don't know what Ryu does better than Ken. I'm gonna be real. Maybe he has a little bit more damage. Yeah, you can't really contest with Ken's pokes. You can't really contest with Ken's mix-up. You can't really contest with Ken's pressure. You can't really contest with, I don't know, all of Ken. What can I say? Is he truly A tier? I'm not sure. I think it's more of just the character gets overshadowed by characters like Ken and Luke that he's down here so low. So I'll order them. I think, personally, I think Manon's above Jamie just because of that explosive potential. I'm gonna put Ryu above both of these characters. Just, again, I think Ryu just gets overshadowed by everyone else, but doesn't necessarily make him bad. There's just not really a reason to play him. Lily, I think, is probably at the end of A, and then Zangief, of course, in B tier. And there's one other character that everyone else has really low. Kimberly. You guys are probably wondering, as a Kim main, where do I put Kimberly? Actually, you know what? I'll do Kimberly at the end. You're gonna have to watch the rest of the video first. So all 5 of these characters, we'll say all 6 of these characters, everyone had pretty consistently down, right? Everyone, Luke is S tier, Ken is S tier, Juri is S tier, except Nephew is A+ tier, but still in like top 6. So sure, I'll go with that. Chun-Li is A+ tier, Honda as A tier, like low A+ tier, right? JP is A+ tier. And I kind of agree with most of it. So I'm gonna say, I actually think Honda's A+ tier. All right, so let's talk about some of these characters. I was talking about Ryu with Ken, but I think Ken is just such a how do I say, he's a better version of Ryu. He has everything. His mix-up corner carry damage is all so strong. I personally think he's below Luke and Juri and Guile. I'll keep him above Cammy. I don't know, I feel like all these top characters are so strong that it's hard for me to like really order them. Okay, this is gonna sound crazy. I'm just gonna go with my gut here, right? I don't care if y'all call me out. I think Guile's number 1. Guile has some issues. I recognize that, right? He has some characters that he maybe loses to, right? Like JP. So he's forced to approach JP. I could actually see JP potentially giving Guile problems, right? But every other character on this list, and maybe Cammy too, but Guile players are doing well against Cammy in tournament, right? Yeah, sure, there's spin knuckle that can get through, or like dive kick that can get through Guile's minefield. But you know, if you get good at perfect parrying those moves, which I think perfect parrying a spin knuckle is way easier than perfect parrying Guile's booms, I don't think Cammy's that much of an issue, right? Especially because once she gets in, it's not that much damage, right? Now Luke is like the $1 million character. Haitani's list kind of put him a little bit lower at 4th, but everyone has him high. Let's be real. Even Justin Big Bird has him top 1. So Luke just has everything, right? Best level 1 in the game. can punish other people's fireballs, anti-airs, goes through everything. It does it all, right? His damage, as you guys know, is crazy. I'm probably gonna butcher this. Bro, like, why does this character do like 3k off meterless? This is extremely strong, plus on block normal. His drive rush is insanely good. He has a cancelable crouch communicator. I mean, literally, this character just has everything. Probably one of the best jumping moves in the game. Like, Ken literally can't anti-air this with crouch heavy punch. It's really dumb. So I can kind of see the argument for Luke being ahead of Guile, but I feel like Guile has just invalidates too many characters. Juri, I think, is really good too. Main reason I think Juri is good is Fireball and Drive Rush. As you guys know, I think they're both really strong tools. The issue that maybe I would put Ken over Juri is that I think Juri has trouble dealing with some characters that can, one, punish or fireball. So for example, Honda's headbutt can go over Juri's fireball. Another thing is, like, I think Juri can get kind of zoned out by like Guile. So I think Juri has some trouble with this character just because Juri has to approach and you can't just rely on Drive Rush to get in because there's fireballs. So I can see Juri struggling in a couple matchups, but for example, as a Kim player, I think Juri is her worst matchup because you don't have a way to stop the fireball and you don't have a way to really stop her from setting up besides random Drive Rush. I think Juri just is very dominant against some characters as well. So maybe less stable, but overall a higher peak. I don't know. I think these two characters are very, very similar. So I actually have a Masters JP. I think the character's quite good. I think the character's mix potential is insane. And I think this character's offense is really downplayed. I think you get a hit with JP, you go into optimal sequencing, you have high, low, you have layered throw mix up. There's so much dirt with this character, and there's a lot of matchup knowledge, a lot of matchup checks that you have to deal with. I think JP just, his matchup spread's too unstable to be an S tier, right? I think certain characters that can just drive rush past his fireballs or spin knuckle past his fireballs, just certain matchups feel really, really hard with JP. Actually, I think he's better than Dhalsim. I think it's like this order. Chun, I think, is really good. One of the best fireballs in the game, can kind of just approach freely from, following up a fireball. But again, kind of has the same issue as someone like Juri, where it's like, if you're playing against someone like Guile, you can't really just set up your fireball and play your normal game. If you can't play your normal game with Chun, I think you're going to struggle a little bit. So I think that keeps her in A+ tier. And Honda, the thing about Honda is, like, I think in theory, Honda's A tier because you just perfect parry everything. You just react to everything. He doesn't really have that much going for him outside of like high damage and a command grab. Like your reversal game is pretty bad. Your neutral's not the best outside of headbutt and sumo slam, but headbutt and sumo slam, especially in like a 2 out of 3 offline setting, can be really, really hard to stop. And he's just so strong at a low level too. But the thing about sumo slam is, like, there's not like a consistent answer against it, right? So the fact that this sumo slam is plus on block and is different from this sumo slam, so there's literally a 6 range difference. So you can't just like perfect parry, you can't just anti-air them all. You kind of have to kind of guess on the timing. So I think that's the one thing that pushes them above A tier, is that even though there technically is a consistent answer for this, there's not really a consistent answer for this because you can't really react to what butt slam he's doing. Yeah, also sumo walk too. I think this move is really good. You have a plus on block frame trap move that you could just like command grab after. Also, the fact that like command grab reaches like after this, like that's so cheap. You can just like literally like your plus on block and you just mix up between that and command grab. That's very, very dirty. All right, so as a Kimberly main, you might be wondering where I put this character. You see a lot of people calling Kimberly bottom 2. I don't think Kimberly is bottom 2. I think Kimberly is bottom 4. Kimberly's better than Jamie because you have a more stable matchup. But I think one of the things Kim has going for her, I don't think she loses a matchup super hard. Even versus Juri, which I think is her worst matchup, it doesn't feel unwinnable. You have a lot of tools that you can use to deal with her neutral. They just have to be more preemptive in nature. And the fact that she doesn't have a reversal, along with like, a few other characters in this bottom tier, is definitely a struggle. I think she has a lot of strengths going for her, right? So outside of gimmicks, this like teleport, let's be real, like if people get used to reacting this, I think people will, because you could just jab both teleports on reaction. So like this forward heavy kick, like you could just jab after and like you have to guess a perfect parry, but the risk rewards not in your favor. This, like, you could just backdash, or you can like guess between one of the two options. And again, the risk reward is just not in your favor a lot of these situations because you don't do enough damage, right? That being said, I think she has a lot of strengths that people are overlooking. I think her neutral's pretty good against characters like that you can bait anti-airs with this. Like just mix up between this and this at range. Very few characters can deal with this. Juri being one of them because her DP goes an ungodly amount of distance. But you can get some jumps in neutral. So her neutral's actually pretty good. Also, her drive rush is insanely good. It has to be one of the best in the game. You can do drive rush low. This combos in the stand heavy punch. You get a lot of damage from a drive rush. You can mix up between jab if they start to check you. You can do stuff like this. She has like a multi-levels to her drive rush game. She can do stuff like this to bait like a slow tech. So the fact that you have drive reversal, you have jumps, you have like occasional things you can throw out like this. You can throw, you know, random run to overhead, random run to grab. So her neutral's like, I think serviceable, right? I think her anti-air, people say like crouch meet, heavy punch can trade. I think as long as you time it right, generally it'll win most of the time. You get a mix up after. I think that's cheap. And you still have heavy kick Tatsu, which is like the most underrated anti-air move in the game. I think it's insanely good, and I think her offense is quite good. So yes, her damage isn't the best, and you might have to make them guess one or two more times, but just run stop pressure in general, like this is pretty hard to react to. This is at frame 22, which means you have to jab at frame 18. No one's reacting to that, right? And if you're reacting to that, like you're definitely not reacting to this. You can't like distinguish between the two. You're gonna get frame trap, you know, hit for a full combo into whatever setup you want. She has a lot of plus on block stuff like that Tatsu. You can mix up between Tatsu. Her offense game's insane. Just mixing up between overhead, throw, etc. She gets plus on block overhead setups now. So even if you guess right on the overhead, you're still plus. And of course she can just throw you, or she can go for a low. So she has a lot of different offense layers that I think kind of help make up that difference. I think Kanoki in general is pretty strong. Of course, a lot of it's weak to parry. So like most of the options you can just parry, but she still gets pretty good damage from a throw. Kind of like 2 throws worth of damage for a can, especially if you parry, that's even more damage that you're taking. So I think she has some pretty good tools, but the fact that you have to take some risk, right? So like every run stop that I do, like it carries some risk, because if they happen to mash or they happen to be looking out for it, even just like mashing on react, like just because you know you block the normal, like this is pretty hard to stop. Like I can't, like unless I spend EX meter here, which is like mid-screen, like okay, you took 1k damage for mashing, like that's not really that scary. So again, the risk, she just loses out on risk reward a lot. Also the super is kind of trash. So take for example, characters with fast jabs can just beat reversal level 1. So it's really risky, and obviously reversal level 2 is even slower. You're not going to be doing that, so you take a lot of risk trying to bust out with Kim. You don't have like the best like anti-shimmy options either. Like you can like try to jump elbow, but that's about it. Just the amount of reward she gets on offense isn't as high as some other characters in terms of damage, and her defense is quite lackluster. I think is what sets her back. If she had back her invincible reversal, I think she'd easily go up a tier, because she'd just be that much more well-rounded. But reversals in this game are just too strong, and I think our offense has just a little too many holes for it to compensate. All right, so guys, this is the final tier list. Rashid, of course, is going to be S tier. Let me know what you guys think. I know it's a little different than some other. Wait, shit. Wait, how do I? All right, just pretend Rashid doesn't exist there. Let me know what you guys think about the tier list. Again, I think this game's quite balanced. I think any character in S, A+, or A tier can win the tournament, as we've seen. I think this game's balanced enough that you just play who you want to play, unless you're at like the top 0.001% of the player base, then maybe you should start to think about tier lists. But again, it's still early. There's still a lot left to be explored. So I think this is mostly for fun, good discussion, and kind of let you know what my thoughts were. So if you have any other thoughts, let me know in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care and peace.